Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we'd begin the familiar ritual of closing up our IKEA. Lights dimmed one by one, the hum of the day replaced by the quiet shuffle of feet and the soft clinks of items being put back in place. The play area, usually alive with the sound of laughter and the bustle of little feet, stood silent and empty, a stark contrast to the daytime chaos. It was on one such evening, just as the last echo of our footsteps seemed to fade into the night, that we heard it. A child's laughter, clear and unmistakable, floated from the deserted play area. We froze, exchanged puzzled glances, and then, as if drawn by a shared sense of responsibility, we moved towards the sound. We searched every corner, under every brightly colored table and behind each cushioned seat, expecting to find a child hidden away, perhaps forgotten in the rush of closing. But there was nothing. No child to be found, no further sound of laughter. Just the silent, empty play area, with its toys lying motionless, as if holding their breath along with us. The night ended with a lingering unease, questions hanging in the air unanswered. We locked up and left, the laughter a mystery we couldn't solve, a memory that would haunt the quiet moments of our closing routine. Night after night, the laughter returned, each time as we locked up the store. It echoed from the play area, a hauntingly cheerful sound in the empty space. Each occurrence sent a shiver down our spines, a mix of fear and confusion gripping us tightly. We tried everything to unravel this mystery. One night, we left a coworker hidden in the play area, eyes peeled for any sign of a child. But the laughter still came, this time from the other end of the store. We set up cameras, hoping to catch a glimpse of the source, but the footage revealed nothing but the lifeless play area, the laughter seeming to come from the walls themselves. The pattern of the ghostly giggles was maddening. We'd gather listening intently, only for the laughter to sound from a new, impossible location. It was as if the store itself was playing a cruel game with us, its rules unknown and its end unseen. For a month, the laughter haunted our closing hours, a ghostly routine that none of us could explain. We tried everything, but no matter what we did, the laughter remained elusive, a whisper of joy where there should have been none. And then, as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. One night, the silence lingered, unbroken by the expected giggle. The nights that followed were just as quiet. The play area, once a source of mystery and fear, returned to its silent vigil, the echoes of laughter now just a memory. The mystery of the ghostly child's laughter never resolved, leaving us with a story that would echo through the store long after the silence returned. The laughter had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving behind a lingering unease and a tale that would be whispered among the aisles for years to come. Now, years after leaving my job at IKEA, those mysterious nights still linger in my mind. I've never been one to believe in the supernatural, and I still carry that skepticism with me. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, my thoughts drift back to the echoing laughter in the empty store. It's in those reflective moments that I find myself questioning, just a bit, the certainty of my disbelief, pondering the unexplained mysteries that life occasionally presents. When he started at IKEA, we didn't know what to make of him. He was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes a room feel colder. He'd walk through the aisles, his eyes rarely meeting ours, and when they did, it felt like he was looking right through you. We tried to chat, make him feel welcome, but he'd just nod or give a half smile. It was off-putting, how someone could be surrounded by the buzz of a busy store yet seem so isolated. Then there were the odd things he'd say. Once, during a break, he mentioned how storms were brewing where none were expected. We all laughed it off. But that night, the city was hit with an unexpected downpour. Another time, he whispered about shadows moving against the grain of time. We didn't know what that meant, but it gave us chills. He was like a puzzle, a walking enigma wrapped in an IKEA uniform. And just as we were starting to get used to his strange ways, he vanished. It was just an ordinary Tuesday when he disappeared. Mid-shift, no less. His locker was open, jacket still hanging, but no sign of him. We scoured the store, every nook and cranny, thinking maybe it was a prank or he'd taken ill quietly somewhere. But nothing. Our manager was flustered, kept muttering about how he should have checked more thoroughly before hiring. Turns out he'd skipped the background check, a detail that only added to the growing unease among us. Where had our mysterious coworker gone? And more importantly, who was he really? When our manager, looking worried, finally did the background check, what we found out shook us all. The social security number the new guy had given when he was hired. It belonged to someone who had died exactly a year ago. We just stood there, staring at the screen, not knowing what to think. Was he a ghost? Had he just made up a number, and it happened to be someone's who had passed away? Or had he stolen a dead man's identity? The air in the break room felt thick, like it was hard to breathe. We all looked at each other, wondering if we really knew who we'd been working with. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but we were all thinking it. Had we just been working side by side with a ghost? Or was it some kind of trick? The store, usually filled with the sounds of customers and announcements, felt eerily silent that day, as if it was holding its breath, waiting for an answer we couldn't give. I still think back to that job at IKEA, to the days following the disappearance. We were all caught in a haze of speculation and unease. Some of my colleagues swore they'd seen him after he vanished, lurking in the shadows of the warehouse or fleeting past the end of an aisle. But every time we looked, there was no one there. As days turned into weeks, the story of the disappearing employee became a sort of legend among the staff. New hires were told the tale with a mix of seriousness and a nudge of jest. But those of us who were there, who saw his empty locker and the haunted look on our manager's face, we couldn't quite shake off the feeling. Was he a ghost, a wandering spirit tied to a number that was no longer his? Or just a man, living in the shadows using a name that wasn't his own? We never got our answers. The store returned to its usual rhythm, but sometimes when the light would dim just so, or a chill would pass through a room, we'd remember, and the questions would start all over again. The thrill had been building all day, a secret plan simmering in the back of my mind. The vast, sprawling IKEA store, with its endless corridors of perfectly staged rooms, had always fascinated me. Today, I was not just another customer lost in the maze of Scandinavian design. I was a thrill seeker on a mission. As the clock ticked closer to closing time, my heart raced with excitement. I pretended to examine a particularly plush sofa, all the while watching the staff begin their end-of-day routines. The announcements for closing didn't deter me, they were my cue. With a casual glance around to ensure no prying eyes, I slipped into a spacious wardrobe, the kind I had long fantasized about owning. The darkness inside was complete, the muffled sounds of the store fading away. I crouched among the hanging clothes, barely daring to breathe. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Finally, the last sliver of light vanished as the wardrobe door closed for the night, and the store plunged into silence. When I was sure the coast was clear, I cautiously emerged from my hiding spot. The store, once a hub of activity, now lay in eerie stillness. The cheerful displays, once inviting, now loomed like ghostly remnants of the day. I was alone, truly alone, in the vast expanse of IKEA after hours. With a mix of fear and exhilaration, I stepped out into the dimly lit pathway, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The adventure of a lifetime awaited me, a night of exploration in the great silent maze of IKEA. But as the reality of my solitude set in, a chill crept up my spine. What had seemed like an exciting adventure now felt like a plunge into the unknown. The initial thrill of my clandestine exploration quickly soured as the familiar cozy showrooms twisted into sinister shadows under the intermittent flickering lights. Each display, once a beacon of homey inspiration, now stood as a silent, eerie tableau, casting long, grotesque shadows that seemed to stretch and reach for me. My heart, once racing with excitement, now pounded with a growing sense of dread. The silence of the vast store was broken by unsettling noises. The distant creak of a floorboard, a sudden thump from a distant corner, the soft rustle of fabric that seemed too deliberate to be caused by the air conditioning. These sounds, innocent during the day, now whispered of unseen dangers lurking in the dark. The playful idea of hiding, of spending a night in IKEA, began to unravel, replaced by a creeping paranoia that I was not alone in this vast, nocturnal maze. As the noises grew closer, more frequent, my initial confidence evaporated, replaced by a raw, primal panic. I found myself darting from shadow to shadow, my breath short and ragged, jumping at every sound. The once familiar paths of the store became a labyrinthine trap, each turn seemingly bringing me closer to the source of my fear. The chase was on, though I could not see my pursuer. I only knew that I had to keep moving, to escape the unseen presence that stalked me through the darkened aisles of IKEA. My frantic dash through the darkened corridors of IKEA came to an abrupt halt when I rounded a corner and collided with a solid, unexpected presence. Stumbling back, my heart in my throat, I looked up into the equally startled face of a security guard. His surprise mirrored mine, his flashlight casting a stark, accusing light on my guilt-stricken face. There was a moment of tense silence, our mutual shock giving way to the absurdity of the situation. The guard, recovering first, couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of me, a grown adult caught in a game of after-hours hide-and-seek. "You know, we do close at night," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. Embarrassment flushed over me as I stammered an apology, my grand adventure ending not with a bang, but with a sheepish walk of shame. Escorted through the now benign corridors of the store, the once menacing shadows now just ordinary furniture and decorations, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. As we reached the exit, the guard shook his head, still smiling. "Next time you want a night at IKEA, maybe just buy a bed." With a final wave, he released me into the cool night air, my night of terror ending not in horror, but in a humorous anecdote. The store's lights dimmed behind me, a silent reminder of my misadventure in the world of retail after dark.